The green flag is now in the air, signaling that everything is ready for the starting procedure to begin. He surprised everybody and he goes into the race lead. Fantastic start. So, there's a big crash. Around the outside and he takes the second place.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here in Slovakia, right on the starting grid at the SlovakiaRing. It is time to go racing with a Sunday's racing program. And it is the penultimate round of the 2025 championship of the Central European Formula 4 cars joining the grid right behind my back. We are waiting for them to come from their reconnaissance lap because the pit lane was open, let's say, some 6 minutes ago. And we are ahead of race 2 out of 3 this weekend. We, of course, have the championship battle on our hands. And you may have thought that with yesterday's result, the championship battle was starting to look like maybe a sure thing for Gino Trapper, but the championship leader. However, there were some late race amendments because of safety car regulations infringements. Gino Trapper was found guilty because he braked too hard behind the safety car, and that caused a little bit of a chaos for the cars behind, which meant that Gino Trapper was actually penalized with 5 seconds that were added to his race time. And to his bad luck, actually those 5 seconds meant quite a lot as the race finished behind the safety car, so the gaps were really very small, and that dropped him way out of the points position. So what was a 64-point lead after race 1 is now only a 36-point lead over his biggest challenger, the Czech driver Max Karhan. And not only that, Gino Trapper is now going to start from P12, not only to this race, but also to race 3 later on this afternoon. And to rub even more salt to his wound, actually, his main opponent, Max Karhan, is going to start this race from the front row. But let's actually take a stroll. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Through the starting grid. We've got a lot of friends here, enjoying ourselves right in the morning here to start the race with and to start the weekend, let's say the Sunday's program with. It is Kirill Kutskov on pole position. He was promoted to the race victory yesterday on his return to the series. Kirill Kutskov was the runner-up in last year's championship, and he will start from pole to race number 2. So he has a great chance to score a victory, another victory basically, but this time actually on the road here in Slovakia. Alongside him on the front row, it is Yenza Motorsport's Max Karhan. He was really not happy after qualifying, as he was the lowest placed Yenza car on the grid, and while his teammates were 1, 2, 3 on the grid, Max Karhan actually only started 8th, but staged a great fight back and ended up on the podium thanks to bad luck and some collisions to his teammates. So Max Karhan, completely different scenario from yesterday's race, completely different outlook, because as I mentioned, he in the end saw his championship gap to his rival and teammate Gino Trapper reduced from 64 to actually 36 points, and he's now on the front row, whereas Gino Trapper, well, all the way somewhere over there in P12. Let's see if we can even reach that position by the end of our grid walk. It is Hadi Mimasi on row number 2, and alongside him, Hungarian driver Bennett Gaspar, starting in the Zengo Motorsport colors. Matilda Patz in P5, young German driver, and if we manage to take a little closer look on her racing helmet, if we manage to get a little look under the halo, you will also see the F1 Academy logo on her helmet, because Mattia Pats took part in the Canadian round of the women-only single-seater championship F1 Academy. We have more female racing drivers here on the grid. For example, Nicole Havrda, young Czech-Canadian, who is also about to contest the further round, another round of the F1 Academy in 1 week's time in the Netherlands at Zandvoort. But alongside Mathilde Paats on row number 3, it is Theo Borenstein. Not really a Czech-sounding name, but a Czech driver anyway. You can see the Czech flag on his halo. Mafia Racing car. Actually, Mafia Racing, the strongest, or let's say the most strongly presented team here this weekend, with 5 cars on the grid. Javier Herrera, P7. He was fighting for podium positions, but in the end also ended up in trouble and lost the podium position. Javier Herrera, P7 here on the grid today. Alongside him, it is Andreas Lebu, with another Mafia Racing car. The Swiss driver should be on pole later on for the race number 3. Simon Schranz in P9 in row number 5, and we're gonna make our way here to the all-black car of JMT Racing Team, and that is the mentioned Canadian driver Nicole Havrda. You can also see the beautiful livery of her helmet. Not only predominantly pink livery, but also the Canadian maple leaves and also the F1 Academy logo. František Němec in P11, Nicole's teammate, just alongside her on row number 6. And then, and it's been a walk, I promised you that, it's been a walk, but it is the championship leader, Gino Trapper, all the way down in P12. He will start from the same position also to the afternoon race number 3, and he is now facing a real uphill battle. So what seemed like a starting, or let's say initiating easy position in the championship yesterday has been turned on its head, and Gino Trapper is now facing a real challenge in not only this race, but also race number 3, to keep the championship lead at the end of this weekend. So we're gonna have to leave the grid, you know, let's go racing. Cars lined up on the starting grid. We managed to make our way all the way back to P12 because that is a very important position in today's race. As I mentioned, the championship leader, really the situation changed for him since yesterday. He was a winner on the road, but then got penalized. 5 seconds added to his race time, which dropped him all the way out of the point scoring positions, and Gino Trapper saw his quite massive lead reduced to 36 points. That's still quite a lot. However, the objective may be changed a little bit for Sunday's part of this weekend, because he could still be crowned champion still today, provided that he will have more than 75 points of advantage over Max Karhan. And as he was leaving yesterday's race with a 64-point gap to the nearest rival, it started to look like a very real possibility. However, with the penalty and also with the great fight back from Max Karhan, the situation is now completely different, and we may as well see a beautiful championship fight for the title all the way down to the wire. The finale will be contested in 2 weeks' time in Brno. Cars are now taking off for their formation lap. 5,922 meters is the length of SlovakiaRing's racetrack, and everybody now has time to get their machinery ready, get some heat into their tires and brakes. So Kirill Kutskov ends up on pole position as he inherited yesterday's race-won victory. Alongside him, Max Karhan. He's already scored 2 victories this season, and definitely the objective for today's race is absolutely clear. He will be only 8th on the grid for race 3, if I'm not mistaken, but today he's starting on from the front row, which gives him a great opportunity to score another one. Hadi Mimasi and Bennett Gaspar alongside each other on row number 2, then Matilda Pats and Theo Borenstein in P5 and P6, 7th for Javier Herrera and 8th for Andreas Lebu, who will start from pole later on. Simon Schranz and Nicole Havrda joining each other on row number 5, then František Němec and Gino Trappa, the championship leader. I've already mentioned it a couple of times, down in P12. Let's see what the young Argentinian can do about that. Definitely he's shown a very strong pace, not only over the course of the entire season, but also this weekend. So I'm absolutely sure that another fight back is something that we can be looking forward to in this race, and we can only look forward to how far up the grid, how far up the order Gino Trappa will be able to get himself. Michalina Sabai in P13, and alongside her Chiara Henny, so complete female row number 7. Igor Polák in 15th from Nikolaj Dirvet. P17 to Stefan Trenesky. Nicolas Cortes, yesterday's pole sitter, only down in P18 as he crashed out of race 1 after a fight with his teammate Javier Herrera, and then David Gorčica in 19th. No penalty handed in the end for the collision between the 2 Jens Motorsport cars yesterday. It was an unfortunate incident that caused damage to the results of both of the drivers, but no extra penalty was then awarded for that. We are now reaching the final corner of the track, the really quick and kind of never-ending right-hander that brings us back onto the start and finish straight. And as all the cars will assume their positions on the grid, we will be ready to go here in Slovakia. The weather is pleasant today in the morning. You can see that what was mostly cloudy sky yesterday is now maybe just a slightly overcast scenery, but the sun is out. The wind is still rather strong, as you can see and hear from some of the shots. If you, for example, look at the flags on the right hand side of your screen, you see that wind is something that needs to be taken into consideration for today's race, which also makes the weather conditions feel slightly colder than they actually are. Somewhere around 16 degrees centigrade now, around 10 AM. But nothing dramatic to prevent today's race from happening. The green flag is now up in the air, so we'll wait for the lights to go red. And we are underway for race number 2 here in Slovakia. Slightly slower start for Stefan Trenesky, but it's a fight for the race lead. Kirill Kutskov did not manage to cover off Hadi Mimasi, who had a fantastic start from P3. Max Karhan slotting behind them right now. but it appears to be a very good start by Memassi, who should now be in the lead. Max Karhan trying to fight from third. There is also Kirill Kutskov, your pole sitter. Lost the lead right at the start, but is already entangled in a huge fight. Hard braking into the third corner. Everybody seems to be safely through. And we've got one of the Křenek Motorsport cars in the gravel trap and on the grass. Now to the tight and twisty sector number 2. Hard braking, also hard cornering. Further 2 Křenek Motorsport cars trying to fight their way back through the field. And I also believe that František Němec made a rather good start in the colors of JNT Racing Team, but he's now under attack from one of the Enza cars. That must be the championship leader, Gino Trapper, who is now on the move. There we go, back over the crest with Hadi Memassi leading us away. Car number 6 in the race lead. From Kirill Kutskov, the pole sitter, and Max Karhan, we are completing lap number 1. It's a great start from the guy who was third on the grid, Hadi Memassi, in the lead, but Kirill Kutskov slipstreaming past him down the long pit straight. Not really close enough for an overtaking attempt, but Kirill Kutskov remaining in very close second. Gino Trapper, great first lap, and he has managed to get himself up already to 7th place, starting 12th. That's +5 positions. Great stuff from the championship leader. And he definitely sends a strong message. He does not want to be just sitting around. He's going to do something about his championship hopes for them to remain strong. Max Karhan trying to have a look of his own. He also needs to use this situation that was presented to him, suddenly finding himself in a way better starting position for race number 2 than what he was in at the beginning of race number 1. And he has another great chance of chewing into the championship advantage of his teammate in this race as well. But Trapper is on the move. Memassi leading from Kutskov, Karhan third. Then it is Matilda Pats up to 4th. Gained 1 place from the start. Simon Schranz also a great getaway. He was all the way down on row number 5. Now he is B5. Bennett Gaspar lost a couple of places at the start. He's now running 6th. And actually, it looks like he's even running lower than that right now, because Gino Trapper's on the move, and Gaspar seems to have fallen down to 7th. There is Trapper, the blue and black Yenza car, number 48, on another move. He's now dealt with Matilda Pats, and that means that Gino Trapper is moving himself up to 5th, as also Simon Schranz had overtaken Matilda Pats. Great slipstreaming battle down the pit straight. Gino Trapper under attack and under pressure, this time from Bennett Gaspar, one of the other Yenza cars on the move. That is Herrera making a move on Matilda Pats. Behind them also Theo Borenstein with Mafia Racing's car, and then Nicolas Cortes starting all the way down in the field, down in 18th, now up to 10th. So great progress from the Yenza cars. And great fighting, locking up also into 3rd. But the progress of Gino Trapper, absolutely amazing so far. Memassi is still in the lead from Kutskov and Karhan. So positions 1, 2, 3 haven't changed since the start and the initial position swaps. Hadi Mimasi also currently holding the fastest lap of the race, 2:05.492. But the top trio lapping in a very, very similar region. Basically within 1/10 of one another. The drivers behind being slightly slower than that, as they are currently locked in a lot of fighting, which prevents them from always taking the ideal racing line. Gino Trappa coming under more pressure from Bennett Gaspard. So Gaspard decides to play a role in this fight. He lost a couple of places from the start. He was on row number 2, but now is running 6th. And if anything you may want in a race could be to overtake the championship leader and potentially even the eventual champion. We'll see about that. And that's something that Bennett Gaspard is definitely looking for, to make a successful overtake on the young Argentine in front of himself. Nicolas Cortés on the move as well, trying to make a move on Matilda Parts. Matilda Parts was quite successful on the opening lap of the race, moving herself up to 4th. However, since then losing some positions, now falling down to 8th and currently under pressure from Cortés. This is the internal fight in the Mafia Racing's camp. That looks like a fight for 10th between Borenstein and Lebu. Back into the fight for 5th. Gaspard still really close behind Trapper, who has so far been unable to make further inroads into the order in the top 10. He's 1.7 seconds behind Schranz. Schranz currently in 4th, having started towards the back end of the top 10. So good race by the young Swiss driver as well. Who scored his first podium finish in the Salzburg ring round and then another one in Most. Now potentially looking for another one. Gaspard on the move. Gino Trappa already selecting a defensive line into the first corner. Unfortunately, we are not really looking at that right now, but let's see if the move has been successful or not. Slightly difficult to really guess the colors in the sunlight over the crest, so I was not really able to tell them apart and reveal to you if Gino Trappa is still 5th or not. Either way, it's still Mimasi leading since the start from Kutskov and Karhan. Everybody's now trying to read their opponent's lines and breaking points, and also save some tire life for the dying laps of the race. And it is still Trappa in 5th, so he managed to defend himself successfully from Gaspard in the first corner. Simon Schranz running a little alone right now, but it appears as if his gap over Trappa starts to shrink. 1.4 between them now. Also Herrera and also Parts getting in the fight. That is another battle. I believe that there is František Němec in this one. But back to the fight for 5th. Gino Trappa under siege from Benet Gaspar. Benet Gaspar slipstreaming past the championship leader down the main straight, trying to look alongside, and he will now be able to get himself on the inside line, and Benet Gaspar currently completing a successful move. But how about the exit? Gino Trappa performs a switchback and finds himself back on the inside, which gives him advantage to the second turn. And Gino Trappa successfully defended himself in the end. It was a good move by Gaspar, but he did not manage to hold his opponent behind his back on the exit, which means that the Hungarian driver is gonna have to do it all over again. Good attempt, but next time he will also need to think about the exit. Maybe reducing his speed slightly more on the apex. Further fighting, this would be František Němec leading the group from Michalina Sabaj and Nikol Havrda. Nikolaj Dirvet. And David Gorčica in the Křenek Motorsport colors, trying to move himself up the order, as it seems that it was him who lost a couple of places right on the opening lap, making a slight off-track excursion, as we are now approaching the halfway mark of the race. František Němec leading us in this group, but under attack from Michalina Sabaj. She's trying to have a look and trying to make a move of her own. Back onto the main straight, Nikol Havrda behind them in 13th. There is the young Canadian who actually has Czech parents. She's also trying to have a look on Michalina Sabaj. Nikol Havrda receiving helpful tips and coaching hints from a former Formula One driver, Roberto Moreno, this weekend. There is a fight. David Gorčica trying to make a move around the outside of the third corner, and what a move this has been! Ho ho ho! A nice one. And if the position is maybe not what Gorčica would really be entirely happy with, then this move was definitely something to look back at. I mean, if you could frame videos and put them on the wall, then if I were David Gorčica, I would put this move right over my bed, because that was a really nice one. Now František Němec under attack. And slotting already behind. Michalina Sabaj completing the move, even in the braking zone, right before the corner itself. So Michalina Sabaj currently moving up to 10th. But František Němec is now being able to enjoy the slipstream down the main straight, selecting the outside line. Bold move into the first corner, but hard under braking, and František Němec seems to be successful, while David Gorčica still has to defend his newly gained position from Dirvet. This is a very exciting group from 10th to 14th. on the road. In the meantime, gaps also really small among the top three, but no changes there. Michalina Sabai making another overtaking attempt round the outside of turn 3. And this time she is successful. That was a nice one, but hang on, František Němec still staying alongside. And that means that he might be just able to hold on to 10th. But another overtaking attempt round the outside. How long will these cars be able to run side by side? This is absolutely incredible. And Michalina Sabai making another dicey dive down the inside, just like Dirvet on Nicole Havrda. What a great battle, and they are still side by side. This is absolutely incredible. The SlovakiaRing snaking left and right. And these two Formula 4 cars absolutely inseparable. But now it is Dirvet trying to make a move round the outside. Will he find enough grip? Careful! This is really tight, but Michalina Sabai staying ahead, but only just. And František Němec, I'm not really sure whether he's entirely sure whether to look in the left-hand side rearview mirror or the right-hand side. Both of them absolutely full in every corner. But look at Dirvet now trying to get two in one go. He seems to have got himself ahead of Michalina Sabai, who's now coming under threat from Nicole Havrda. David Gorčica also waiting for his opportunity to pounce. František Němec having to defend hard yet again. Hard under-braking into the first corner, careful for switchbacks, which is something that Michalina Sabai might now be looking for, just as Dirvet was not successful in his attempt to get ahead. And Sabai is through. Gorčica around the outside of Havrda in the second corner, also a nice one. This fight is absolutely providing an absolute cinema today in the morning. In the meantime, Gino Trapper, together with Bennett Gaspar, caught up with Simon Schranz in the fight for fourth. And hang on a second, this is the race lead. This is the race lead, and there's been a change because Kirill Kutskov is now the race leader once again. Maffei Racing car back in the lead. I was really trying to guess which trio this was, and actually it's actually the top three. So Hadi Mimasi losing his race lead after 9 laps. 6 minutes still left to go. So Kirill Kutskov back on top. From Mimasi, Max Karhan currently remaining in third. Simon Schranz in fourth, already having to defend from Trapper and Gaspar, and there must have been a battle because look at the gap between Trapper and Gaspar recorded across the finish line, under 1/10 of a second. This is František Němec in another fight, having to go defensive yet again. David Gorčica currently finding his way through the field. Ahead of I believe Michalina Sabai and Gorčica. Then it is Dirvet under attack from further 3 cars. Sabai on the outside, Gorčica on the inside. Gorčica making a move and getting himself up into 11th. Is now for points. Ooh, and look at that. That's a rotten bit of luck for car number 9. That's Simon Schranz. Simon Schranz finding himself on the grass from 4th. What happened here? Because Schranz is now losing dramatically. Was it just a mistake, or was it maybe a contact? Or is it some sort of a defect or a car failure? I don't think so, because Schranz is now back up to speed. However, he went off the track and lost a lot of places for now. He's now even under attack from David Gorčica. So he's dropped it all the way to the back end of the top 10. František Němec is now through. Simon Schranz behind him. So he's a new member of this group for the rest of the race. And that is, of course, a big sporting tragedy for Schranz, who was running fourth all race long. But he's now dropping down to roundabout where he started. Across the line we go again with Kuckov leading from Hadi Memasi and Max Karhan. That's your top three. And the issue of Simon Schranz is now helping the championship leader Gino Trapper up to fourth. It's already going to be nearly impossible for him to get into the podium scoring positions, as he's now trailing his teammate by more than 7 seconds on the road and still under pressure from Benet Gaspar, who's not done with him just yet. 3 minutes left on the clock, and a couple of seconds added to that. And this is the top three fight again. This is the one for the race victory. Kirill Kuckov leading from Memasi and from Karhan. This is still not decided. Max Karhan has now spent the entire race having a look and trying to read into the minds of his opponents where their weak spots might be, and getting himself ready to pounce. He's already won a couple of times this season, scoring 2 victories in the Salzburg Ring round, then a lot more podium positions to that as well, thanks to which Max Karhan is finding himself second in the championship, trailing Gino Trapper by 36 points now. Who's gonna blink? It was a slight look from Hadi Memasi, but he is now gonna come under pressure from Karhan. Max Karhan also enjoyed a very strong second half of the season last year, so he's now looking to repeat that in 2025 as well, trying to line up for a move. It's really not easy. No DRS on these cars, no overtaking aids. It is all just down to the racing drivers, and Karhan already making a move into the second corner. This is not the most typical place where you would expect such an attempt, but here we go anyway. And Max Karhan side by side with Hadi Memasi, for a long time the race leader. But how about turn number 3, Max Karhan trying to stay ahead, but it seems as though you're able to find quite a lot of grip around the outside, as has already been shown a couple of times in this race. And Hadi Memasi, thanks to that, staying in second. 1 minute left on the clock. Which means that this could even possibly be the final lap of the race. But let's see about that. No +1 lap in Formula 4 races. Half a minute left. Max Karhan would like to have another look. However, he was not close enough for that one. 20 seconds. And I believe that this will be it. I believe that this will be it. There's not enough time, and the time will be up in 3 seconds, which means that effectively this is the final lap of the race. There we are, the time is up. It's now gone all the way to zeros. And there we are, the checkered flag is out. Kirill Kuckov takes another victory here in Slovakia, this time on the road, with all the ceremonies, with the trophy, with the champagne. Hadi Memasi defending hard and then holding on to second from Max Karhan, but look at that, Gino Trappa has been overtaken in the dying moments of the race, so Bennett Gaspar has done it. The long time pressure paid off and Bennett Gaspar moves himself up to 4th, but only just. Would you look at that? 67 thousandths of a second. That means basically 2/3 of 1/10. This is really incredibly close across the line, and Gino Trappa losing valuable points in the championship fight. Thanks to Bennett Gaspar, who was running his own race, troubling Trappa for a long time, and finally snatching that 4th off the hands of the championship leader. Javier Herrera coming home 6th from Andreas Lebu. Theo Borenstein in P8 from František Němec, and David Gorčica completing the top 10. Simon Schranz will definitely be left frustrated, running 4th almost the entire race, and then running across the gravel and running across the grass, losing a lot of places in the process, and finally even falling out of the top 10. Michalina Sabaj in 12th from Nicole Havrda, who's coming home 13th. And it is Chiara Henny in 14th from Nikolaj Dirvet, Igor Polák in 16th from Stefan Treneski, Nicolas Cortes, who fell back down to 18th in the end. Something must have happened to the Mexican driver, and also Matilda Paz, because Matilda Paz is only finishing 19th with a huge gap to the rest of the world. Something must have really gone wrong in those fights at the, let's say, back end of the top 10, because Matilda Paz, she was actually even all the way up in 4th in the beginning of the race. Cortes worked his way up from 18th on the grid somewhere towards the top 10. He was even in it momentarily, but then Cortes and Matilda Paz find themselves at the bottom end of the results table. So I'm suspecting maybe a collision or some sort of other incidents. Either way, it is Kirill Kutskov rejoining the championship. He did not start in any of the previous rounds this season, and last year's runner-up has come back. He inherited yesterday's victory, but today he has taken it on merit on the road, which means, well, for him it's now 2 out of 2 this season, basically. Hadi Mimasi finishing 2nd on the road. For Hadi Mimasi, it's also a great success, as Mimasi entered this race in 6th in the standings. This is his 3rd podium finish of the season, and the best result, because so far it was a 3rd place in Red Bull Ring, 3rd place yesterday, also inherited, but now it is P2 on the road. Maybe a tiny little disappointment, having led the race for most of its length, but still a great result, and Max Karhan finishing 3rd. So that was race number 2, still one to go a little later on today. And what is also important to add is that thanks to Max Karhan finishing 3rd and Gino Trapper finishing 5th, the championship gap between the first 2 protagonists is being reduced from 36 to 31 points, and that is throwing the entire championship wide open for the remaining 4 races of the 2025 season. The 3rd one still coming up today in our broadcasting program. These are the results. Of course, currently unofficial, but it is Kirill Kutskov finishing 1st on the road and taking a 2nd victory on his comeback to this series. With that, it is for now a very warm goodbye.
Green flag is now in the air, signaling that everything is ready for the starting procedure to begin. He surprised everybody and he goes into the race lead. Fantastic start.